103, 5 Lincoln 102, Lincoln 103 and 102.
Responding to 401 parking structure, section 1 boy.
Henry 8, Henry 9. Respond to gate 437, Bravo, for your dignitary detail. 3K 911 unattended, 400 lower level near carousel 4, black bag. GTA in progress, 401 parking structure, section 4 boy.
Responding to 401 parking structure, section 1 boy.
415 passenger onboard aircraft.
Control 2 Franklin in route.
484 suspect, is female, Hispanic, 28 years of age, blue jeans, no further.
Control 5 Frank 401 is en route.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Private Officer Beat Radio. Glad you're joining us live here from the broadcast room here. Beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina, on a lovely day as the Carolinas begin to, quote, reopen, unquote, as many states have begun loosening up their restrictions, just like North Carolina. We got a lot of good and bad going on because of that. There's still a lot of restrictions, and we'll get into that a little bit in a few minutes about how that relates to security. We have a lot of breaking news and, of course, some sad details of this COVID-19 and how it's affecting the security industry, with more than 95 dead now just in about 7 weeks. 95 confirmed to be victims of the COVID-19 coronavirus. And that, unfortunately, is just the tipping point, just the beginning, because we know that there are many others out there yet to be identified, and we are working hard 7 days a week. We have team members on this trying to identify those who have died because of COVID-19. And we're also looking at those who had and had not PPE. I'm your host this morning, Rick McCann, founder and CEO of Private Officer International, Armor College, and a number of other businesses. And this morning, I'm telling you, I am not happy with what's happening with private security companies and proprietary businesses as well that employ their own security staff. Now, we've done a number of surveys of frontline officers. We continue to hear the same thing. They're not being protected. They're not being appreciated to the point of their employers considering their well-being. And yes, they don't have to be there. They can stay home. But many need the job. They need a paycheck. They need to pay their bills. As you probably have heard by now, especially if you read the POI newsletters, breaking news, and our news blog, a security officer last week was killed in Flint, Michigan, when he approached a woman and her daughter. The woman was wearing a face covering, a mask, but the daughter was not. And when he asked her to do so, they left after a disturbance, called their husband and friends, who came back to the store about 20 minutes later and killed the security officer, shot him in the head. So even if he had been wearing body armor, he still would have been dead because they aimed for, obviously, his head for a reason. And we're seeing that really across the country. More and more police officers and security officers, when they are being shot, they are being killed because the people are hitting them in the head, shooting for the head, no longer the body, because they know most officers do wear body armor these days. But the security officer did die. 4 people now arrested. 4 people arrested for this conspiracy conspiracy charged with murder, 1 capital offense, and other charges. And I am sure that with any competent district attorney, there's going to be a good conviction. There's not going to be any need for plea deals. We're following this, and we have a unit here at POI that tracks court cases, especially ones involving the homicide of security officers. So we're going to stay on top of it. We'll contact the DA's office in a few weeks. We'll find out. One of them have already been arraigned. That's the initial court appearance. And we're going to follow this, and in a few weeks or a month, we'll contact the DA and find out the progress. And as you probably know, most courts are not open right now. They're still not open. And this may be a very delayed court trial, especially now with the COVID. And if it comes back later in the fall or later in the year, it could even delay the trial even more. But we'll let you know. We will stay on top of this. This was not the first serious attack on a security officer involving a mask or PPE. We've had other security officers attacked. We had a security officer in Oklahoma where the person spit in the mouth, a hawker, in the mouth of a security officer at a store. We've had a number of assaults on security officers relating to trying to enforce social distancing or mask or other related items requested by the client. And that's the whole bulk of our topic today. We're going to be talking about the new security officer duties, the reality of what that means, and what happens if you don't enforce the client's wishes. We're going to talk about some of the new techniques and tools that have been brought into the security trade because of COVID-19. We know it's not going to go away. We know it's going to be around for quite some time and may even come back every year, just like the flu. There's so much we don't know about this COVID-19, but there's a lot that we do know. And because of that, we're preparing. And businesses are preparing as well. And you're going to see a lot of changes, not only for the next few weeks or months, but probably for the next few years. We mentioned in our last program about the number of lawsuits, both from security officers, customers. A lot is happening on this front. It's very fluid. And with courts, some courts not being open, not taking any type of civil or criminal cases, you can still file the lawsuit online in many areas. And some areas, the clerk's office is still open and you can go in and file it in person. So there are lawsuits. We know of a number of security officers who have sued their employee for a lack of PPE. And we also know that there's several security companies right now being sued for non-payment, not paying security officers working in highly contagious areas. Of course, non-payment is always a problem and an issue, but I can picture that many security companies probably are not being paid on time. They're probably not even being paid at all. I know of one situation here in the North Carolina state where a security officer worked faithfully at a hotel. The hotel closed up. COVID people and homeless people were at the hotel, and he didn't get paid for about a month, and he's out of luck. We know of other lawsuits happening, and so we're going to be staying on top of all of the lawsuits, all of the legal wranglings. And it's not just involving security. We know that there's a lot of different type of COVID-19 lawsuits happening. And the problem that we have when it's an illness or a virus or an airborne one of the problems is that people have to prove that they caught it at a certain location, that they caught it on duty. And that's one of the problems. We talked about a few weeks ago, workers' comp. There's still a lot of cases that have yet to be settled, a lot of cases that are still open. And, you know, I believe that this is going to be a situation where some states, the workers' compensation is not going to pay, and they're going to insist on a lawsuit because in many cases, when you have thousands and thousands of people filing claims for the same illness or injury, that could bankrupt a small insurance company, and it certainly can raise the premiums across the board and other things. And every state has an insurance commissioner, a board that oversees insurance companies, and in some states it's required that you file a claim through them if you don't get your insurance claim paid. But I foresee a lot of lawsuits in the upcoming months and years, actually. Of course, we have a lot of breaking news, and we want to talk a little bit about those 95 security officer deaths. Now, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to keep going because we got a lot of topics, a lot of areas that we need to discuss. Remember, if you're looking for body armor, protective wear, stab-resistant vest, contact our friends at Body Armor USA. We've got what it takes to protect you. There's no doubt about that. Body Armor USA. Go to their website or give them a call today. We're coming right back. Don't go away.
What a fantastic day.
What a fantastic day.
The water's like glass.
The water is like glass.
Don't forget the sodas.
Don't forget the life jackets.
Who wants the 8 and who wants the 15?
Who wants the inflatables?
What a great day.
To be on the water.
So glad you saw me go over.
That was so funny. When you went over and your life jacket inflated.
Never go out without a life jacket on again.
What a great day we had.
When it comes to wearing life jackets, make the right choice. You're in command. Vote responsibly. This message brought to you by the National Safe Boating Council and the U.S. Coast Guard.
Slow down.
Slow down and move over.
And move over. When you see lights,
Best. Or reflectors.
please, give us some room. Slow down and move over. When you need us,
We've got your back.
you have ours.
You got our back?
You got ours? You got our back? Please, slow down.
And move over.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio, an original production of Private Officer International, a private security and law enforcement organization for the past 16 years. If you're in the metropolitan Charlotte, North Carolina area, and that of course includes multiple counties, including South Carolina, and you're in need of North Carolina PPS security, unarmed or armed training, or SLED, the South Carolina regulatory training, if you need first aid training or other firearms, if you're a citizen just looking for a little bit of training on how to best protect yourself and your loved ones, contact our friends today over at Premier Training Academy. They're very conveniently located right there on Executive Center Drive. Call them up today. Talk to our friend John at 704-806-4933. Premier Training Academy, the premier training in the metropolitan Charlotte area. 704-806-4933 and ask for John. We know that there are a lot of COVID security officer deaths not even recognized yet, not even made public. In fact, just during that commercial break, we were notified of 2 other security officers who have been identified as passing away from the COVID virus. As we've said for the past few weeks, I'm certain that there will be several hundred identified in the next month or two, and that is extremely sad. It's very hard for us every day to go through and identify these humans, these individuals who have contracted a terrible virus, and we don't know if it's because they didn't have proper PPE. We don't know if it was because they had some underlying condition, but we do know it's tragic. Now, if you are out there on the front line, don't forget about the COVID-19 award. Check it out today at privateofficer.org. The COVID award recognizes you for being a frontline officer protecting life and property during this pandemic. With this award, if you are not already a member of Private Officer, you're going to get a 1-year free membership. Go to our website, privateofficer.org, today and nominate yourself or others. privateofficer.org. Also, if you're wearing a uniform to work, if you're wearing a mask at work, you're driving in your car, it's very important that you, as soon as you get to the house, drop that uniform like a hot potato, throw it in the wash machine. I know sometimes when you're working for a contract security company, they'll only give you maybe 2 uniforms, maybe 3 shirts, but it's important that you wash your uniform every single day. Never, ever wear it more than once, because that uniform could have the virus on it. It has been known to stay on certain surfaces for hours and even days. And if you're wearing a mask, please don't wear the same one every day. Some masks are washable, but there are certain methods of washing that mask. Be sure that you seek out those instructions and take care of your equipment properly. In the last couple of weeks, we have talked about the legislators in a number of states who have come up with what's called safe harbor legislation, and that nullifies any chance for a family or anyone else to file a lawsuit when a death has occurred during the COVID pandemic, and that's even for a non-COVID related death. New legislation right now being written will cover senior living facilities, convalescent homes, medical facilities, hospitals, medical care providers, even if they did something wrong or failed to do their job. And it's really sad, and unfortunately you're going to see many states will protect all areas of the healthcare industry during this COVID-19. And I'm even seeing legislation that would cover fire departments and other emergency responders. Of course, private security are first responders. We just don't get that recognition. We don't get that designation. I was explaining to an individual security officer earlier last week that, private security officers are private employees, and EMS, fire, law enforcement, these are public servants. They're hired to provide these services for the general public. Thus, they are considered frontline first responders. I know that there's not much of a difference these days. Unfortunately, the law hasn't caught up with that, and they don't recognize private security as frontline and emergency responders. I do want to also tell you the Frontline TV program still in the work, a little delayed because of COVID, but be sure to be looking for it. We'll be making those announcements coming up soon. Also, we have several brand new radio programs coming out in the fall. Be sure to be looking for those. A lot going on. If you'd like to be a guest on any of the radio shows, contact helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Like I said, we've got a lot going on. There's so many different areas that you can be involved in. Right now, we are looking for committee members for our legislative committee, where we try to change certain laws to benefit private security. We're also looking for board members. If you'd like to be on the board, you must be in the security industry at least 3 years, or a security company owner, law enforcement officer, or other business professional. And we have an awards committee opening and several other opportunities really for you. Go to our website, privateofficer.org. If you need more information, contact helpdesk@privateofficer.com. We're talking today, later on, about the new security officer duties, how times are changing just because of COVID, and they're going to continue to change. This is not going away anytime soon. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, a lot more to talk about. Breaking news coming in right now, and a whole lot more. Don't go away. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio. We're coming right back. Hey everyone, you're listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector right here on the Private Officer Radio Network. Now don't go away, because we are coming right back when we've got a whole lot more right here on the Private Officer Beat Radio.
I met Luke when I was pretty much born. We kind of just grew up together. He got his license when he was 16. We were going to the beach, and Luke was driving. I was in the passenger seat. And all of a sudden, I don't remember anything. I wasn't conscious for it. We got hit by a drunk driver. I feel like I knew right away that it was never going to be the same. I don't know. The doctors, they were telling me I was so lucky to be alive. When I found out that he died on impact, I didn't really feel lucky. And sometimes I still don't. Drinking and driving is completely unnecessary, and I think it's selfish if you do it. It's not worth taking that risk, because you never know what's going to happen.
At Armor College, a public safety institute, we train those who help others. Paramedics and emergency medical technicians, firefighters, police officers, law enforcement, private security, bail enforcement, and those on the front line. Check us out today at armorcollege.org. ARMOUR college.org. We'll even bring the school to you. Armor College, a public safety institute.
Slow down.
Slow down and move over.
And move over. When you see lights,
vest,
I'll be flag Thursday.
Please, give us some room. Slow down and move over. When you need us,
We've got your back.
you have ours.
You got our back?
You got ours? You got our back? Please, slow down.
And move over.
Kroger employees, a major grocery store, one of the largest traditional grocers in the U.S. with more than 2,750 stores and over 500,000 employees, want to be recognized as first responders. Kroger said that their employees are on the front line, and many of their hourly employees, if not all, are represented by the United Food and Commercial Workers International Union, UFCW. They say that they are put into a significantly high risk every day, and they're calling on their federal and state leaders to take immediate action to designate Kroger employees as first responders. Now, Kroger's traditional union, they're very, very large and powerful. And they say that their employees deserve and need to be classified as first responders. Albertsons, which is also a grocery store that owns Safeway, you may have heard of them, Jewel Osco, Vons, Pavilions, and several other stores also released a statement just several days ago saying they too want temporary designation as first responders or emergency personnel status. They say the status will give them the ability to get PPE faster and other benefits for employees who are risking their life every day. The UFCW union, which is the largest food and retail union in the U.S., represents employees across the board, and they are out contacting their legislators to get this done immediately. Who's out there cheerleading and directing and pushing for private security? Who's out there trying to navigate the waters of this legislative process for private security and explaining how dangerous it is for security officers to be out there and why it's so important to be designated a first responder or an emergency personnel? We are in a time right now. I want to clarify something. I know we're hearing a lot about, we're going to reopen the state May 1. We're going to reopen the state in 2 weeks. All the stores are going to be reopened. The beaches will be reopened. We're going to get back to work. And that's all well and good. But the COVID-19 isn't going away anytime soon. Until they actually get an antivirus, until they actually develop a way to fight this, it's going to be around for a long time. And some medical experts speculate that we could see a bigger wave in the fall when we normally see the flu wave come in to the U.S. We're not going away anytime soon. We're going to be on the front line protecting companies even after they're open. In fact, this COVID-19 has increased many security companies' service hours, bottom line, and has saved some security companies from going out of business because now they're working in the COVID-19 arena. And we're going to see security officers on the front line protecting stores and other businesses because we're still going to have, space requirements. We're still going to have different requirements to maintain in order for us to keep the businesses open. And who's going to be enforcing those rules? Who's going to be on the front line? It's going to be security officers. So we need to really step up and get this going where we can be qualified and classified as first responders. Now, POI has a legislative arm to it, and we have helped change the law in a number of states. It's no easy task. It does not happen overnight. It's a long process, and really there are some states, just to put it blunt to you, that don't care and don't want to hear about private security. They have said more than once that this is an issue for the employer, not for the state. But we still need to bend the ear of our legislators on the state and federal level because this is not going away. And if it does, it'll be something else that's putting our frontline security personnel out in the open, on the front line, exposed to the dangers that just won't go away. Many security officers have, unfortunately, lost their jobs. Some security companies have gone out of business. They just couldn't weather paying their employees and their overhead, their insurance, and their bills because they weren't being paid by the client. And so, unfortunately, we've had quite a few security officers lose their job. Now, if you lose your job, you can file workers' compensation. It's not really a paycheck. It's a stopgap to help you along the way until you find another job. It is important to understand that right now, more than 22 million people have filed for unemployment, even those that don't qualify, even those that haven't worked a day in their life, even those that, they choose not to work. So it may take a time for you to get your unemployment benefits, and you may have a battle. You may have to prove that you've been laid off. Earlier on, we were told by the president's office that everyone would qualify. It wouldn't be restrictive. We wouldn't have to prove that we've been laid off or the circumstances, just that we were unemployed. And I've heard from many that hasn't really occurred. They still have to, prove why they're unemployed and prove that they didn't violate any policy or cause their termination. If you are a POI member, or even if you're not, and you need some information about workers' comp and what it covers and whether or not you'll qualify, email helpdesk@privateofficer.com. helpdesk@privateofficer.com. The same thing for workers' compensation. We were talking about unemployment and workers' comp, but same thing with workers' comp. If you have a claim where you've become ill, we have an attorney that we've been working with in North Carolina who specializes in workers' comp and understands the law and for the states as well as federal. If you have a workers' comp question, email helpdesk@privateofficer.com. helpdesk@privateofficer.com. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a lot more to share with you. We've got some breaking news, and we want to talk to you about how to weather through the storm. Be right back. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio.
You're on your way to meet up with friends, but you can't seem to get anywhere quickly. You don't want your friends to be annoyed, so you text. You're on your way. "5 seconds is the average time your eyes are off the road while texting while driving. Make sure you get where you're going.
In the news this week, 2 people arrested in Los Angeles after attacking store security officers. Police say the store security officers were escorting a group of men out of the store because they had no face coverings on. Police said they responded to the Van Nuys store after security was assaulted. Police arrested the 2 men for assault on the security officers. One security officer sustained a broken arm. In the small town of Glen Ridge, New Jersey, they recorded the first line of duty death in 125 years. Charles Roberts was hospitalized April 21 after his heart stopped and ultimately died of the COVID-19 virus. The first line of duty death in this small New Jersey town in more than 125 years. Private security across the country are beginning to get into the ankle monitoring business, responding to alerts when the monitors go off. Instead of bail, many cities and towns across the country are setting up these ankle monitoring systems, and private security are contracting with probation and law enforcement to respond to see whether or not the person wearing the ankle monitor has left the area or cut it off. In Syracuse, New York, a security officer at the Regional Transportation Center is being called a hero. A man identified now as Andrew Booker shot a man at the transit center. When the security officer went to intervene, he was also shot on Sunday. Police say he's a hero. He is expected to survive. A Florida woman who was in labor arrived at the hospital in Tampa, but her husband told security she could not wait. The security officer, Philip Call, was at the door. He did intervene, and he actually delivered the baby right there on the front steps of the hospital. FBI in El Paso, Texas, has arrested a 29-year-old man for calling in threats to several stores in the area. He threatened to shoot up the stores. He was upset. 2 women in Augusta, Georgia, have been arrested in a shoplifting incident at Walmart as they used 3 children aged 14, 15, and 16 to do the shoplifting. In Newark, New Jersey, a 27-year veteran of the New Jersey Newark Police Department has died of complications from the coronavirus. Police identified Sergeant Michael Clegg, 53, who passed away on Sunday. In Fall River, Massachusetts, a Durfee High School security officer spends his off time as a UFC fighter. He's being recognized for his wins along the way in the past 2 years. Police in Spokane, Washington, say an off-duty security officer was alerted to alarms going off at the Lewis and Clark High School. Police responded and caught 4 juveniles vandalizing the school. The security officer is being credited with notifying police about the vandalism. A female security officer was killed, according to police in Boynton Beach, Florida. A man who the security officer knew, identified as Jones Felipe, 21, came in, got into an argument, and shot the on-duty security officer, and she passed away. TSA said that they have implemented new security controls and additional COVID-19 safety measures across the U.S., all of the airports, after more than 1,000 of their agents got the COVID-19 and 5 passed away. An off-duty Birmingham police officer was working security at a Walmart. He identified a woman who was not wearing a face covering. When he went to talk with her, police say that she was disorderly. He wound up slamming her to the ground. A video has been released and is making its rounds across the internet. The officer is now under investigation. And staying here in Birmingham, Alabama, an off-duty Birmingham hospital security officer was found murdered. On Saturday, police say they responded to a report of gunfire and found the security officer dead at the house. A recent autopsy on a Memphis 81-year-old security officer who went missing last year and drowned in an automobile accident. The autopsy says that Curtis Harris, the cause of death was drowning. He became disoriented, they believe, when he left the 10 Mile Creek Apartments to get coffee and had an accident and went into a creek, and several weeks later was found. City in New York is just one of numerous across the country that's now laying off police and firefighters. Schenectady, New York says they're laying off 40 cops and 33 firefighters because the city doesn't have the income to pay them due to COVID-19 and the lack of taxes coming in. We're seeing that numerous cities are beginning to do this. Police are investigating a shooting at the Raleigh, North Carolina Crabtree Valley Mall. Police said that shots were fired in the parking lot. They're investigating to see who was involved, and right now there's no information as to whether or not security officers were involved in that or not. A burglary suspect in Livingston, New Jersey, broke into the Livingston Mall. A security officer spotted the man and attempted to make a detention. The suspect fled and is still on the loose right now. Police across the country are reporting almost 70 officers have been killed in line of duty from COVID-19. Those numbers are surely going to go up as more and more communities are now releasing the names of the victims of the COVID-19. A security officer in Atlanta, Georgia, at a mall was assaulted during a fight in the parking lot. A man who happened to be a bystander came and began assaulting both the people involved as well as the security officer. No arrest made, and the suspect did flee. 2 men arrested for stealing more than $1,500 from Walmart in Jasper, Indiana. Security there was able to apprehend and detain Artist Bunch and James Mannion in that grand theft. We have a lot of breaking news. As always, go to our website at privateofficer.org today. Sign up for those breaking news alerts, officer down reports, and training reports, and learn what's happening in the security industry. We're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we want to talk about all of the new security officer duties during this COVID-19.
Human trafficking is slavery.
And it happens all over America. Any child, any woman, any man could potentially become a victim of human trafficking.
I am a victim of labor trafficking.
I was a victim of child sex trafficking, but now I own my body.
Human trafficking is any kind of forced labor.
It can happen to anybody.
I am a mother.
I am an author.
I am a son.
I'm an advocate.
I am an educator.
I'm a sister.
I am a brother.
I'm so much more than what happened to me.
I am strong.
I am brave.
I am outspoken.
I am compassionate.
I am a survivor.
I'm a survivor.
I am a survivor.
I am a survivor.
I am a survivor.
I am a survivor of human trafficking.
Security officer duties have, for the past several months, been much different than it's been over the years past. And these duties will continue to change. And in some areas may not even look to be security related. And we're seeing that already now throughout the country and actually throughout the world. As security officers are being asked to do many things not really related to security, but more related to public safety and medical services. We're going to see a lot more security personnel being used to monitor not only the security of the assets and the people, but to monitor the temperature of the people. Already seeing non-contact thermometers being used to check the temperatures of people before they're being let into certain businesses, including retail. Now, many states are beginning to open up their bars and restaurants, and already some of them have installed thermal imaging cameras so that they can set the temperature, for instance, let's say 98.5 or 99.0, and if a person passes in front of the camera with a higher temperature, security is there to stop the person and tell them they cannot enter. Recently, I seen a new style Korean barbecue restaurant, a very upscale one in Columbia, South Carolina, and now opening a new one in Charlotte, North Carolina, who already has that equipment installed. And what they're going to do, and what they've been doing, is that they're going to have that temperature set so that it alerts them. A bell goes off. And if that person has a higher temperature than what's been rated in the thermal camera, that person will not be allowed to enter the restaurant, the establishment. But the owner, not wanting to lose business and thinking, this is something that we need to do, but I don't want to really get people upset. He already said he's had those comments that some people won't come to his restaurant because of this, but he said what he's going to do is issue gift certificates and ask them to come back in a week or so. He doesn't want to lose business, but on the other hand, he doesn't want to infect other customers with COVID-19. Security officers are also being used right now and will be used further in the coming months and maybe even the coming years to enforce the social distance. We've seen this outside of retailers, including the big box stores. We've seen it at home improvement stores. We've seen it at pharmacies. We've seen it at malls now opening up, social distancing. In many communities, police have been asked to be the social distance police. And so they have been asking people in parks and in communities and other locations where they have grouped up to stay at least 6 feet apart. Now, you probably have already seen the videos online in New York City and elsewhere where this has caused outright battles with police and the violator of the social distance. But in other communities, police and sheriff departments have said since the beginning they're not going to get involved. They're not going to get involved in being the social distance police. They will respond to a call of a citizen making a report, but they're not going to write tickets. They're not going to take people to jail. They're not even going to make it a hard approach when trying to get people to stay 6 feet apart. And the same thing goes for other businesses. Police have said we'll respond to the business, but we're not going to be the social distance police. They're adults, and we're going to let them make up their minds, even though there may be some type of temporary ordinance or rule. Police in many areas are not getting involved in that. Security officers, on the other hand, will have to get involved in locations like malls and bars and restaurants, retail establishments, grocery stores. They're already getting involved. And as you know, it's caused one in Flint, Michigan to be killed by suspects who came back after a woman and her daughter was refused entry because they were not wearing, one of them was not wearing a mask, and they conspired with their husband and friends, and they came back and killed the security officer. We've seen others, since this all began, being spit upon, being assaulted. A Target security agent in California had his arm broken just in the last week or so. We've seen numerous people, numerous security officers being spit upon, assaulted, thrown to the ground. But security officers will be the social distance police. They will be the mask police. They will be the temperature police. They will be asked to control how many people are in the store. Many areas are opening their states in phases, phase 1, 2, and 3. So in phase 1, the retail or the restaurant may only be allowed to have 50% occupancy. That number, many people ask where that number is coming from. Every commercial business, it doesn't matter if it's a barber shop, a restaurant, a retail store, a grocery store, whatever, has an occupancy rate that has been issued by the fire department. That's the number that's safe for that amount of space. So if you have 100,000 square foot like a Walmart or a Kroger store, the safe number might be 500. So 50% occupancy rate would be 250. Restaurants are doing the same thing. In phase 1, some of the states opening up are only allowing 50% occupancy. If their safe number is 112, well, they're not going to have 112 guests at one time. They're not going to have 112 people in the restaurant at one time. They're going to have 56. Now, you may have seen this in the news recently, in the last couple of days actually. A South Carolina restaurant, this is kind of bizarre, a South Carolina restaurant, a bizarre restaurant, they chose to take blow-up dolls and put it in the seats to cut down on the number of people in their restaurant at any one given time. Why they couldn't use some type of tape or just take the tables out or whatever, I don't know, but they put in blow-up dolls. So it will be the security officers' duties as these states begin opening up to limit the number of people inside. Already been doing this, but it's going to go on for quite some time. Many people think this is all said and done, it's all over, you know, we're done with it, we're back to the way things were. No, we won't be back to the way things were for a long, long time to come. It may be months, it could be years. This virus is not new. It's a strain of an older virus that we talked about a few weeks ago, but it's not going away until we have a vaccine that works. And although many would love to believe that might be in the next month or two, or hopefully by the end of the year. The truth is, it probably won't be for another 6, 12, or 18 months. So security officer duties are going to be much more broadened, but here's the problem with that. It leads to more confrontations. As NYPD and other police agencies have found out, people don't like being told what to do, especially when it's not really a state law, it's not a statute, it's not even in most cases an ordinance, which is a localized law, and in many places it's just an order by the health department. So that's why this is going to be very interesting over the next 3 to 6 months, 12 months, especially as we move in. Now, June 1st is the hurricane season. We have that adds a whole nother issue, a challenge to what we have to deal with, because during the hurricane season, a lot of security officers work at along the coast, both the Atlantic as well as the Gulf Coast. They work and are assigned to many of the evacuation points, shelters, and facilities that house short-term during emergencies people. Well, how are we going to social distance during an emergency where we're evacuating 500,000 people? Last year, during a hurricane, we evacuated almost 6 million people along the Atlantic and the Gulf Coast. Thankfully, it was not long-term, and they were able to all get back home in a relatively short time. We have other security officers currently deployed in a medical evaluation situation. So there are many security officers across the country who already work as EMT security officers for manufacturers, car manufacturing, food manufacturing, warehousing, and other large employers, and they are working as EMTs and medical support people and security all at the same time. And so these officers will continue providing emergency medical technician services and security services as a combination, but you're going to see more and more companies hiring those providers. I just read this week that a company providing nurses, EMTs, paramedics got a large contract with a manufacturing company with multiple locations in the U.S. to provide those people in-house to assist employees who may become ill or may report ill or may need other medical assistance. So as this evolves and as employers begin to realize the value of having medical staff or medically trained security, you're going to see this as a not only a new duty, a new service, but a customary, usual service as more and more companies are going to use this. And certainly schools already short-staffed, shorthand with nurses, are also going to be seeking out security who are EMTs. In fact, I saw a proposal request maybe 6 months ago. That was one of the stipulations. That was one of the things they wanted. Security personnel at the school that were also EMT or paramedic level. And there's a lower level called EMR, Emergency Medical Response. That's a certification, and that may be also something required. We're going to be watching this very close. Of course, we're going to be reporting on it as it happens. We're going to keep you up to date. Remember that if you need assistance during this COVID-19 virus pandemic, if you need information, if you need assistance, contact helpdesk@privateofficer.com. That's going to do it for this week. Contact us, helpdesk@privateofficer.com. We'd love to see your photos of you at work. Any situation that you might want to report, please do. And as always, be safe, be blessed, and we'll see you back here on the radio.